Is with us now. They have jurisdiction over the United States Secret Service. Mr. Chairman, thank you. How is it that the buildings that were 150 yards away, that had line of sight directly to the former president, the Republican nominee, how is it that those were unsecured? And how is it that a man with a AR-15 was able to climb up on them?
Yeah, that's the operative question, Leland. As I talked to the director of the Secret Service today, she said that it was outside their perimeter and that the site assessment team decided to place it outside the perimeter. I don't understand why that building was outside their perimeter. That's a question we've got to get an answer to. We also need to get an answer on how they determined to cover that building. They decided that they would use the counter sniper at the 8 o'clock position to cover that building. Well, what did he see? What was his line of sight? Clearly, the shooter was able to get on top of the building and shoot 8 rounds before getting engaged. So this was a massive oversight, and we have got to dig into it and find out why it took so long to take out this shooter.
And in cases like this, it's never one failure, right? It's always multiple things that go wrong that create this situation. I don't want to take away in anything from the bravery of the Secret Service agents, and I think that's important. And you see them throwing themselves on top of the former president and the snipers engaging as well. So part of that worked really well. Parts of it did not. How do you separate those two things from the systemic perhaps issues inside the Secret Service of how this failure was allowed to happen? Is it possible that after 43 years, I hate to say this, but there's almost a sense of complacency? This was unthinkable.
Well, like I said, we have to drill into the tactical level work that was done here. Was there a 360-degree perimeter? Was that guy at the 8 o'clock position really able to cover that building from where he sat? Did local law enforcement, was there an interface? I was also told earlier by the director of the Secret Service that there was actually someone who spotted this guy. They went to try to detain him, couldn't get to him. Then he gets up on top of the building. You know, how did all of that occur? What about that handoff between local law enforcement, who are the outer perimeter, and then the Secret Service, who's on the inner perimeter? So we've got a lot of questions we've got to go get answers to. Yeah. Why was there not a drone in the sky looking at and identifying this guy climbing up on the building?
All great questions. Obviously, those things are going to take a lot longer to get answers to.
Yeah.
Does it strike you as, I don't want to say odd, but it's confounding that 24 hours later, we know so little about the shooter? He made, as a registered Republican, he made one very small political donation to a progressive organization. And other than that, nothing. No tweets, no Facebook. Thomas Matthew Crooks is an enigma still.
Yeah, I mean, this kid, was pretty isolated. It sounded from the interview that you showed at the beginning. And that isolation, I mean, we should be watching for these type of folks and taking better care of our own. You know what I mean? I mean, most of your shooters wind up being that young person, young male who is ostracized by his school, who, and these things are indicators. They're red flags, and someone should have come up on the net about this kid a long time ago. Just like with all the others, the school shootings and things like that, there's a set pattern here.
Yep.
And we got to do better work as a society in that regard.
Yeah, there's going to be some very tough questions. Politics is downstream of culture, and there's lots of reasons to think when American looks about politics, they don't like what they see, and about culture, they don't like what they see either. To that point, there is this discussion, and I think rightfully so, about turning down the temperature in America. Right? There was a lot of discussion in the 6 or 8 months preceding what just happened about the need to dial back the rhetoric, because if you call somebody Hitler and you say Hitler must be stopped or they are going to end the democracy, well, then somebody might take that quite literally and go do it themselves. Right after Joe Biden finished speaking at about 1:30 Eastern today, Donald Trump sent out a 2-word social media post, America Unite. And I'm going to start asking this to everybody throughout the RNC week, Republicans and Democrats. What does America Unite mean to you?
Well, I think first it's dialing down the rhetoric, and it's got to start with relationships. You know, I started this Reagan O'Neill Club thing. I think I've told you about it before, where we bring Republicans and Democrats together at my house in D.C., and we don't talk politics. We just try to learn about each other's story and have relationships. And then from relationships, we can hopefully dial the rhetoric down. But social media, you have to say something and share. You have to say something even more crazy to get the share, and it becomes a drug. And all of that is driving this. And we've got a real issue in the country. And so what people wouldn't have said before, they'll now say openly to someone's face. Again, we don't have to agree, and we're not going to agree. We just got to not hate one another because we disagree.
Well said. And I've had the privilege of understanding some of the folks who have been at those dinners and the importance of them in D.C. Mr. Chairman, it's good to see you, sir. Thank you. We'll see you here in Milwaukee.
Thanks, Leland. See you today.